The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello, and welcome to another live episode of Wrestling with Johners. And I've got a fantastic guest, my third guest the last 3 Wednesdays. But Chris Ayres joined us 2 weeks ago, the Legion King, telling us all about his name change and his continued journey and success on the UK scene. Last Wednesday, had the Demolition Woman, L.A. Taylor, on the show. But today, it's going to be all about this guy here, or these guys here. But I want to introduce to you none other than another returning guest after 3 years, MEMES. How you doing, my friends? Great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I was going to say, technically 2 guests in one here. Very special.
Exactly. 2 for the price of 1. 2 for the price of 1. But brilliant to have you back on the show. I know that we see each other quite regularly at United Wrestling, and we'll talk about United Wrestling a little bit later on, but there's so much to get into. But before we take a deep dive with MEMES, as I announced last week, and I'll announce it again this week, my next guest next Wednesday, as a matter of fact, on Wrestling with Johners will be none other than Aluna. And Aluna will be joining me next Wednesday, the 16th of October at 8 p.m. sharp. You won't want to miss this. A fantastic history in places like Southwest Wrestling, United Wrestling, and all over the UK, South Wales. Catch us next Wednesday live with Aluna on Wrestling with Johners, Wednesday the 16th at 8 p.m. And of course, she's holding the at Southwest Wrestling Warriors Championship there. MEMES, great to have you on the show. There's so much to get into regarding your continued pursuit and journey on the UK scene. And of course, Blue Pain, who was unveiled to be yourself earlier on in the year. We'll talk about all of that. But first of all, we have to discuss a certain Gain, who is getting a lot of traction, a lot of social media buzz, dare I say it, going viral after their appearance at TNT, and it was the Rainbow Rumble, I believe, and a couple of weekends ago for TNT Extreme Wrestling up in Liverpool. Dare I say it, some people maybe initially thought it might have been you that was Gain, but it's not. And you, or Blue Pain, has got a bit of a beef with Gain for all the social media attention they seem to be getting.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I also said I wasn't Blue Pain, so maybe I am Gain as well. But look, I have no problem with a multiverse of a certain Red wrestlers, compatriots, not compatriots, clones, no, not clones, legally distinct, different characters. And I was like, he's gone in at TNT. I haven't been there for a little while. I'll give him his flowers. I'll give him his share. And then TNT announced Gain for the show called A Cold Day in Hell. A cold day in... I have snow powers. I have literal snow powers. And they've got Gain in there. So I'm having a word with Mr. J Apter at TNT. And nothing's confirmed yet. But I am seeing how I can deal with this Rhinestone Gain's, appearance.
Absolutely. And I found this on Blue Pain's X last night, and it just kind of alludes to what you just told us there. But there we go. And it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, actually occurs between you or Blue Pain and Gain. With it being a TNT Extreme Ring or elsewhere across the UK, but it's obviously a ready. Are you sure you're not related at all? Some kind of like long lost.
Well, at first brother? I thought maybe Gain was a distant cousin or something like that. But I've looked into it, and he is as related to me as I am to Glenn Jacobs. So.
Brilliant. Let's move on from Gain and let's talk about the PWI 500. And there you are, sitting comfortably at number 500, not just number 500, but the 500th best wrestler in the world for 2024 memes. And let me ask you, tell us, when did you first find out that you were actually featured, that you were listed, that you were ranked in the PWI listings for 2024 in the first instance?
Well, I was driving home, and I got a message from Amira, of all people, who obviously ranked in the managers list of the PWI 500. And it said, I hope I'm allowed to swear a little bit here. It just said, "Bitch, you're number 500," and I didn't believe her. And so I was like, "Send me proof." And then I'm there, like pulling over on the side of the road, downloading the PWI. I was like, "This can't be true. This can't." Oh my God, I'm actually 500. Like there's literally no position I would. I mean, obviously I want to be on the PWI 500, but if I was going to get on that list, to get on at 500 is just like what I literally said maybe a week before, and I was like, "If there's ever a year where I'm going to make the PWI 500, it'll be this year, and I'll be number 500, and that'll be the best thing ever, not only for Blue Pain, but for memes, because if you don't think I'm going to milk this for an entire year, you are very, very mistaken."
Absolutely. And just at the bottom there, it says that you became the obsession of a certain Matt Cardona. And we'll talk about that very, very soon. But first of all, we are live, of course, across YouTube, across Facebook. So if you're watching us live, thank you so much for tuning in on a Wednesday evening. And we have memes / Blue Pain with us. And if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do. Send us your questions, send us your comments. Scrolling along the bottom of the screen is how you can do that. But just simply, whatever device, whatever platform you're watching us on live, just ping them through to us. Send us your questions or your comments for memes, Blue Pain, and we'll do our best during the course of this interview to answer every single question. But we mentioned Matt Cardona there, and not only was the PWI 500 such a fantastic feat for you, let me ask you before we speak about Matt Cardona. I mean, being 500, a lot of wrestlers that may be featured in the top 500, the PWI 500, might kind of scoff at being the bottom of kind of the listings 500. I think for your characters, it kind of fits very well. And it kind of stands out a lot more than instead of being buried in the 300s or the 400s or whatever the case might be. Have you got any words to any of the fans or talent out there about kind of what it means to you to be 500 in the PW 500 this year?
Oh, I mean, literally, this is the thing. This is the thing. Every wrestling fan grew up going, "What's this list? Who are these wrestlers?" You look them up, you find them, and you always find out who's 500. You always do. Like, it's literally, apart from number one, that is the best spot. That it is. Like, I was interviewed this week, in fact, or last week, in fact, by the PWI themselves, and they say that like kind of their 500 choice every year has to be the right kind of wrestler with the right kind of story and everything else. And they said, literally, they were like, "What you managed to do in the last year was perfect for a 500. Like, yeah, if I'd been 499 or something, I'd have been like, couldn't I just drop one?" Or like, it was, and like they say as well, the thing about 500 is obviously you have a list of names, you have all these names coming through. 500 always gets their picture in the magazine. So again, it's suddenly like, and here's this guy, who's that? And well, you can see it there. And of course, you can see as well, just if you bring that back up, I was wondering what the little thing was next to my name. It means I've been wrestling for 7 years, and I've previously not been listed. So that's 7 years not listed. So that's taken me 7 years to be on that list. And what it means is, like, I did a count. Obviously, I was, having a look at everyone else who's on there and stuff. And I was like, I wonder how many people from British Wrestling are on here, or regulars from British Wrestling, I should say. And I think I counted 16 names. And if you think about the plethora of talent we have here and what so many of them done, not just in the UK, all over the world, the fact that I have made that list is literally, it's, well, I mean, unless something insane happens in the next year, it's my high point. I said that to Matt Cardona. After I was him, I was like, well, it's all downhill from here unless I make the PWI 500. And I did. So it's been ridiculous. Like, being memes has always been, my number one thing. And like, but just creating this, adapting this stupid character and giving him his own personality traits and all these kind of things. and for it to end up where it has is genuinely one of the best. Like, it's literally a highlight of my life. Like, it can't get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you, as you said there, there's literally hundreds of wrestlers across the UK, thousands around the world. So to be inside the top 500, considering that, is a fantastic feat. But do you know one person that wasn't in the top 500 this year, Memes? Roman
Oh,
Reigns. Roman Reigns wasn't even in the top
this is what
500.
I said to them. I said they brought this up, the PWI, and I was like, well, that must mean I'm officially better than Roman Reigns then. So I'm better than Roman Reigns. Charles Crowley didn't make it this year either, just saying. So I'm better than Charles Crowley and Roman Reigns. And yeah, there's a few. I mean, obviously Roman Reigns was effectively a technicality because he hadn't wrestled enough matches, but
it's all by the by.
Exactly. You know, this is the other first people to chat with me about this, because also this has been the thing when I've been Blue Pain, until I took the mask off anyway, I have had genuinely hundreds and hundreds of requests to be on podcasts and to be interviewed and to do these things. And every time I've had to say, sorry, no, I've got a frozen voice box, because the second I start talking like this, I might give away the game. So I'm finally able to talk about these things and stuff like that. And the first people to talk about me on this list was randomly Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler. And he, if you remember, was also once number 500 on the PWI 500. So, I'm not saying I need to fight Nick Nemeth, but 500 versus 500 has a good ring to it.
Hey, Joey Janela, if you're listening, next year's spring break, make it happen.
Yes,
there we go. But
more GCW.
Let's talk about this year's spring break. And there you are, Joey Janela's spring break 8, the 5th of April, right before WrestleMania 40. And there you are, Blue Pain against the indie god, Matt Cardona. And the graphics are awesome. The posters are awesome. And there's a bit of a stare down between the two of you before your encounter.
Just quickly, that graphic there, I have the poster from that entire show, which has all the match graphics on it, and it's been signed by I was signing one of them, and I was like, can I steal this? And they went, yeah, steal it. I still need to frame it, but that poster, excluding me, is entirely grey, and then they've done Blue Pain, in blue. And if you look at all the other match graphics, all completely, obviously with this colour here, but they have specifically made me the only character on that entire poster that is in colour. And I looked at it, I was like, oh man, that's so cool. And yeah, like I have no idea how I ended up effectively in one of the biggest independent matches of WrestleMania weekend, but here we are.
Well, let me ask you, because I know that you encountered Joey Janela for TNT last year when GCW were over here, up in Liverpool in their collaboration weekend with TNT. But Joey Janela, of course, obviously took a shining to you after that match. But give us a bit of a backstory as to how you actually got that match with the Indie God.
Well, I had just previously, I think, debuted for TNT, where I had cost Gene Money a match against Gangrel, as you do. I had a little stare off with Gangrel on the stage. Blue Pain, named under a different name at the time, was going quite crazy. And someone got in touch and says, hey, what are you doing this weekend or on this date? And I was like, nothing. Why? What's happening? And they said, there's the GCW show. And I went, oh, is that with TNT? And they went, no. This is a GCW show. And I was like, so GCW, like, obviously TNT is incredible. They're the best promotion in the country as far as I'm concerned. But they were like, GCW wants you. And GCW is like, when it comes to American indies, they're the big dogs. And I was like, oh, who would I be wrestling? And they'd be like, oh, Joey Janela. And I'm like, okay, cool. All right, let's do this. And just as a little backstory there, I think some people will have seen that last year my lovely little cat who's walking around this room somewhere, I don't know where she's gone, but she decided to fall out of a 5-story window. The day I was wrestling Janela was the day that she was also having her first surgery to repair the issue that was, a broken hip it was. And that had been entirely crowdfunded, almost entirely at least, by wrestling fans. And now she is like walking around, she's running around, she's doing fantastic. But at the time, I was having a very stressful day because I was like, the cat's having surgery, and I've just been offered the biggest match I've ever had against Joey Janela for GCW. And I was like, what do I do? And I go to the show, and I kind of informed them, and I said I'll be a bit late, et cetera, et cetera. And Janela could not have been nicer, kinder, more caring, more helpful. He was like, don't worry about it. How's your cat? Like, he was, pulling the curtain back, but he was so good to me. And then we planned this match out, and I put my input in, and I'm like telling him, I was like, look, I'm really sorry, but Blue Pain literally needs to be murdered if you're going to win. And he was like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll do this. And he threw a few chairs at my head. We fought in the snow. We had a really good match. He was really happy with it. And he's since then said, if you want feedback, if you want help, just message me. Like, you're doing a really cool thing. It's actually quite funny as well that kind of probably tied into this as well. Was on the day I appeared and distracted Gene Money. Joey Janela was on the TNT show, and I come up to him at the start, obviously not dressed as Blue Pain, and I'm like, "Hey man, how you doing? Nice to meet you." He's like, "Oh hey, you're right," and we haven't had a chat, and we just, "Hey, yeah, how you doing?" A little later on, I'm getting dressed up in the gear. I don't have the mask on yet, but I've got the gear on backstage, and he looks at me and he's like, "Oh my God, you're Blue Pain." And he's like, immediately, like, he's asking me questions for 10 minutes at that point. And he's like, "We got to go outside. We got to film something." And I'm like, absolutely. Let's do. And he was so like, he got it. And I'm sure me getting on GCW was partly that as well, of him being like, hey, this guy's here and I want to wrestle him. So yeah, TNT and GCW was really, really cool. Just doing that initial one for GCW.
Yeah, and like I say, he obviously extended the invite to spring break for April this year. And when you found out that it was Cardona, you must have thought all your Christmases had come at once.
Well, we'd been pushing for it for 6, 7, 8 months or something at that point.
Yeah.
And I got a message, and it just said, are you free WrestleMania weekend? And I'm like, yeah, what you got in mind? And I just got sent a tweet of Matt Cardona saying, I challenge Kane at WrestleMania. And I was like, all right, let's do this. We're cooking. It took once it was announced, I won't go into it again because we've done it a few times, but the lawyers, obviously I'm Blue Pain now, the lawyers did come in. I do think I've got a credible defense, but I don't want to go to war with WWE. So I made some changes. I changed this suit. I changed the name. But GCW announced Blue Kane versus MEMES, and I see the graphic and I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad. And 45 minutes later, email. I see you've reneged on our agreement to not appear as... And I'm like, no, this was an accident. I didn't make it clear to them that I had to change the name. And, they changed it. They put the graphic out. And thankfully, I just about got there. But I was, even a couple of days before, I was like, oh, I haven't had confirmation. I just want confirmation so I can be sure I can do this without, getting sued into the ground. And thankfully, I got to do it. It was one of the coolest things ever. Biggest audience I've ever wrestled in front of. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Let's bring up some pictures. And obviously, we brought this one up earlier on. But these are all from your entrance. Was it the Penn's Landing Arena or Penn's Landing Center in Philadelphia? Yeah. And there you are in the ring.
Well, that's it. And this, it's not really shown in these pictures, but this room was huge. And this was I think this was the show of the day that actually sold out completely. And there was a moment, you can kind of see a few more people there, but there must have been at least 1,500, 2,000 people there.
Really? That's incredible.
And there's a moment where, what a choke slam. Look at that. There's a moment where, Cardona, he can jump, I'll tell you that. There's a moment where I have, oh God, yeah, I took a chair to the face as well. That was fun. A moment where I took, I threw Broski Jimmy off the stage through a table in a wheelchair. because obviously, there it is. We were building up to that the whole way through. That's what everyone wanted to see. We did the spot, and I just stood there, and I was like, I'm in the exact perfect place to just take in this moment. So you'll see me stand there for 10, 15 seconds, literally just looking around. I mean, obviously I look super intimidating, but I'm just looking around the room at the sea of people there. And I'm like, if I stay here for a second, I might get a really cool Sandman in the crowd shot. And I just about got it. But it was just so cool in that moment, just to look around and be like, I cannot believe I am wrestling the biggest independent star in the world in America on WrestleMania weekend for the biggest independent promotion in the US, or in the world, arguably. It was so good. And GCW looked after me so well. Like, it was incredible. It was genuinely incredible.
I've got to say, looking at this double choke slam here, and you mentioned, is that Broski Jimmy in your right hand there? But he got some height. He got some height.
This was a fake Zack Ryder.
Oh, right.
So the ref was down. Cardona went for the pin. Zack Ryder's music hits. Zack Ryder comes out. Looks like he's going to go after Matt Cardona. I take I think it was a low blow. I get beaten up through. I think I went through a table. I can't remember what I did now. Basically, I got demolished by the two of them. They're all celebrating. I sit up and give them a double choke slam.
And we'll talk a bit about the end, because there was you got a fireball to the face, and that kind of spelt the ends, followed by a Rough Rider. I'm not even sure if he calls that anymore, but that's what I'm going to call it. And then it took 4 people to pin your shoulders to the mat.
4 people and a fireball.
Exactly.
And of course, fire is my only weakness, so he knew what he was doing. But yeah, that was the fireball was a nice surprise. We'll put it that way. I've never lost a match by fireball before, and yes, it's very rare that Blue Pain ever gets pinned. In fact, I think I've been pinned twice before this. So it's, but yeah, losing to Matt Cardona when 57 people have interfered, and in front of that audience, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. And I took a fireball to the face.
You got to throw Broski Jimmy off the stage with a wheelchair through the table, and that was a spot that was 7 or 8, maybe even 11 years in the making, when Kane did the same to Zack Ryder on an episode of Monday Night Raw, however many years ago.
Well, this was the whole feud between me and Cardona started with the threats to throw him off the stage in a wheelchair. And the internet would constantly, every time he would post anything, they'd post the gif of Kane pushing him off the stage in a wheelchair. And, I'd threaten him, and I was like, oh, maybe one day we'll get the match. If we get the match, we'll make it happen. But yeah, to actually do the wheelchair spot it's just, I just smile when I think about it, because it was so surreal and like such a life highlight for me. That's it's a core memory, that is.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, because obviously we've picked up Matt Cardona, easily the biggest name on the US Indies, possibly worldwide Indies, the indie god, of course. But he's an exceptional pro, one of the best in the business. He gets it. He absolutely gets it. And I'm sure it was just as much of a thrill for him being in the ring with you under the circumstances, with all the hype that Blue Pain's been having, and the story and the build. And he's been going after you on social media for months beforehand. It must have been just as much of a thrill for him as it was for you, considering that he just absolutely gets it. He gets the business so well, doesn't he?
Well, yeah. Well, I knew that he'd been pushing for it. We'd pushed it for a few places in the UK, but Matt Cardona is unexpectedly quite expensive. So a lot of people in the UK who wanted to put on the match just didn't have the budget for Matt Cardona. Obviously, GCW is currently his kind of home promotion. I mean, he wrestles all over the world, but that's kind of his main base. And they were able to make it happen. And it was a big surprise to me that it was going to be me flying out and me, staying in the hotel and going to the overseas promotion. But that was all. I mean, I'm sure Janela had part of it. Cardona had part of it. Brett, who runs GCW, of course, was a big part of it. But yeah, the fact that happened because of a stupid costume I put on it's insane to me. Like, it was so good. And yeah, Cardona was such a pro. Like one of the things that I learned from him when we were kind of going through it on the day was every time we'd be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And he goes, right, that's indie. How do we make it WWE? And that's saying, you know, like if I'd pushed Broski Jimmy off the stage sideways, maybe I could have got further, but the camera shot would have been terrible. Or like, you know, it's things like that, just these minor little things. And you just think about what you're doing and then you think, right, how would I do this if the WWE were telling me to do this? And it's something I've been taking ever since. And it makes such a big difference to just the way you kind of think about things. And it's been, yeah, that's been really cool. Like I learned a lot doing what was basically a spot-filled match, but it was a chaotic spot-filled match, and I wouldn't have had it any other way for that particular one.
Absolutely. And we spoke about Gain earlier, going viral after their appearance a couple of weekends ago. You're no stranger to going viral over the years, memes with all your fantastic posts and videos, etc. And but Blue Pain kind of had a lot of attention from the worldwide wrestling media and various personalities, very well known in the business. I'm going to bring up some pictures here. You've probably seen these. I've got a lot of these from your Instagram, of course.
Do you know what I love about these?
Go on.
Just going back to that first one.
Yeah.
I literally was like, I was on. It was when I'd just done my first podcast, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got a couple of friends in WWE, and they say it's, and they were like, oh, you know, Blue Pain, that's really cool, and that became that headline, and I'm like, oh, I can see how these dirt sheet headlines are so funny, and they were all so clickbaity for me. I think I once did a tweet where I was like, oh, I'm running out of clickbait headlines to post about myself, and someone did a headline about that, and I'm like, oh, thank you very much, screenshot post.
Oh, absolutely, but it's
yeah, the Sun.
Go on, carry on.
Oh yeah, it's Blue crossed out there, of course. The son of WWE legend Kane. What fans must know, they did not know who I was. In fact, you know what? Early on, what is hilarious, they thought that Blue Pain was Truman Roswell. People like genuinely were having this discussion, and I'm sending this to Truman Roswell, being like, they think you're Blue Pain. He's like, but we had a match. I was like, I know we tagged together, but they think, and you're ginger and this tall. And like, they genuinely were like, oh, it could be this guy. And some people did think it might be me, but that was the point. I always wanted to be, oh, it might be me, but I could not be.
Yeah, I don't know how legit this one is, but The Undertaker apparently, even Double J, Jeff Jarrett spoke about you alongside Conrad Thompson, of course, on his My World podcast.
I have a little bit of history with Jeff Jarrett, dating back to before I was wrestling. So when I was kind of just in my memes era, not my wrestling era, I was doing podcasts and stuff here and there. And I was doing stuff with TNA at the time, and I got to interview Jeff Jarrett for like half an hour, and we had a really good chat. He was really nice, everything. And then shortly after that, I started training to wrestle. And I went to a Jeff Jarrett seminar back at, where was it? It was at IPW. And I was like, oh, we did this kind of thing. And he was like, yeah, I remember you. Yeah, you would. And he literally remembered me. He was like, oh, hey, how you doing? It was really nice. And I was like, let's film a promo. And we filmed a promo saying at the time, who's going to win this weekend, the show memes or the Alpha Wolves. And Jeff Jarrett laughs. He's like, well, obviously the Alpha Wolves. I look really sad. And he's like, choke on that, slap nuts, and walks off. And then right after that, there was a thing called Wrestling Media Con, which was put on, oh God, this must have been 7 years ago, maybe 7 years ago.
I remember it, yeah.
And I was booked on that to appear alongside Matthew of Botchamania, and we were doing a panel show kind of thing. And actually we had Curtis Chapman on with us as well, who was obviously, of course, sadly missed. And it was called Botchamania, and which was hilarious because every single thing went wrong with it. And we just kept referring back to Curtis and going, Curtis, anything to say? And he's like, nope, wish I wasn't on stage though. And it was so funny. And we did that thing, and that we were literally tutored for that by Jeff Jarrett, me and Matthew, and like the whole show, Jeff Jarrett just started trolling me, and he would just walk up behind me because he knew my wrestling name was Memes. I just started then, like, you know, I'd done this training session with him. I was maybe less than a year in, and Jeff Jarrett would just sneak up to me when I wasn't looking, walk up behind me and just go, Memes, in my ear. And I'm like, why is Jeff Jarrett winding me up? but he was great, and he didn't know I was Blue Pain.
I don't think he
But
put two
he
and two
was
together when he was basically
maybe.
putting you over. I'm guessing you saw he's putting you over
Yeah,
for
and
your
that's it.
yeah.
He said, like, the clip I've heard at least was him saying, I bet you Blue Pain's not saying he went to the basketball this weekend. I bet you he's not saying what he had for lunch. He's in character the whole time, and that's why this is working. And that was exactly what I was doing. And and then some people just didn't quite grasp that. And I was like, oh, but Jeff Jarrett gets it. So next time I see him, I'm going to have to thank him again. But yeah, Jeff Jarrett has had a surprisingly large influence on my wrestling career. But yeah, we've crossed paths a few times, and he's been lovely every time.
And very briefly, let's talk. I don't want to spend too much time on this individual, but let's talk a bit about Ryback, because didn't he go on X or one of his social media accounts and say that he would come out of retirement for 25 grand to face Blue Pain, and you said that you'd face Ryback for $250.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's got something for you. He wants to come out of retirement and face Blue Pain.
I would love to face Ryback, if not just for the not the controversy, but the what's the word I'm looking for? It's not even the heat, but anyway, I think Ryback knows what he's doing when he posts. Like, he knows what he's doing, because, again, pull back the curtain a bit. He sent me a lovely DM that was like, "You're doing great, keep it up. Let me know if I can help you." Like, everything, and I was like, what? Ryback is now offering me help. So I was like, "Oh, thank you, Ryback. That's very kind of you." And he actually invited me on to chat with him on Twitter this was, and I was like, "Oh, I would, but I literally can't talk." But like, people like Ryback, people like Matt Cardona, like, huge wrestling names, are quote tweeting me and sharing me, and I've gone from 1,000 followers to 13,000 in like 2 weeks, and I'm trending worldwide, and it's because of people like, people may like or not like him, but it's because of people like Ryback.
Yeah, it's people that get the business, whether people like Ryback or not. It's people that get the business and know how to, get tongues wagging. But
Yeah,
I want to talk. I want to talk a bit about the unveiling now. Then and I'm going to bring up some pictures just to preface this. But of course, there you are. You are two different people. Who is behind the mic? I kid.
That is the magical photography of Luke Lesurf.
Of course.
We looked like we were standing next to each other when we weren't.
But there is the man. There is you. Memes behind the mask of Blue Pain, of course. And now this happens earlier on in the year. I think it may have been about April or May time. So you're talking a good 5 or 6 months ago. Now, I know that we spoke backstage at a United show when you were kind of contemplating it on the verge. You just come back from Mania, I think, and we were talking about it. And you wanted to, I think I've just kind of gone on hiatus. So I probably would have been having this interview much sooner had I not have gone on hiatus. But tell us a bit about the thought process about choosing to unmask and kind of essentially show memes behind the character.
Well, this was always my long-term plan. I never thought it would take off as much as it did, and I never thought that it would, I guess, last as long as it has. But after that Cardona match, or before that Cardona match, I'm sitting in a place where I've had literally 2 cease and desists from WWE. And I'm like, they could pull the plug on this at any moment. Like, I've made the accommodations, I've made changes. But, it's quite funny because you watch the Vince McMahon documentary, and he talks about how he was, the little guy was bullied by by these multi-million-dollar companies that have infinite money to bring lawyers in and stuff like that. And there's him trying to defend himself as a mum and pup organization. And I'm like, this is literally what's happening here. And I'd had 2 of these. I was like, if a third, it's going to be too much. If a third comes, I'm going to have to pull the plug.
That's curtains.
And I didn't want to be, and I've changed the name and everything. So fingers crossed, we're all good. But I didn't want to be in a position where Blue Cane was just wiped from the internet forever, and no one ever knew it was me because, I'd made agreements or whatever. So before the Cardona match, in fact, I had been doing a storyline with Pro Wrestling East, where as MEMES, I had been trying to call out Blue Pain. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, this is just too perfect for this. So I message them and say, what do you think if I unmask versus Truman Roswell? Well, and also I've been booked against Truman Roswell for the title, sorry, I should say. This was coincidental. So I've been booked in a title match with Truman Roswell for the title, and I went, what do you think about this? And they were, of course, all on board for it. And Truman was, we never got to do our story at DOA. It just, never came around to where we wanted it to be. And for him and me to kind of effectively get that moment from that start, I was just like, this is just everything is aligned here. Everything is perfect. That audience at East loves MEMES. I know they'll love Blue Pain. They literally wear tinfoil hats to the ring for Truman. This is perfect. So that's why I chose to unmask there. A, so I could be like, it was me, before I wasn't allowed to not say that. And B, so I could do this thing with Truman and tell a really cool story. And it doesn't mean it's the end of Blue Pain either. Of course, you'll have seen. I've wrestled multiple times since as Blue Pain. But now it's kind of picture Blue Pain as my demon, or the demon to Finn Balor,
exactly.
Cactus Jack to Mick Foley, the Fiend to Bray Wyatt, even like that level up of a character. But mine's a comedy one, effectively. So it's kind of Blue Pain literally started as a meme. So for MEMES to become an all-powerful meme is kind of, again, perfect, accidentally, for my character.
Absolutely. And this was roughly around the time when Blue Pain debuted, not too far away from when we first interviewed 3 years ago. This is November 2021. We interviewed in the 2nd of November 2021. So that was you teaming with Truman. You said that you attacked him before that. You eventually started teaming with him. And how poetic that 3 years down the line, you are going up against Truman again, with him as the PWE men's champion, and you eventually unveil it yourself as the man behind the big blue machine, and then you do have your match just a few weeks ago, September the 21st, for the championship once again, where under slightly dubious means you got the championship over your shoulder there. Yeah, you are now the brand new PWE men's heavyweight champion. So, like I say, thinking, I don't know whether you intended for it to be a 3-year-long storyline involving Truman, but whatever happens with DOA or PWE, it certainly worked, and it's always poetic how it all turned out.
Well, I think there's a lot of fate there, and a lot of creativity, and the willingness for PWE. PWE are incredible. They're actually going to be taking their own hiatus shortly. But as a promotion, I cannot recommend them more. They are one of the best promotions in the country. They deserve sellouts every single show. They put on incredible stuff. They have such a cool setup. They have such great production. They let their wrestlers tell their stories. And that's exactly what me and Truman basically came with this pitch. We got this idea, and they've been like, yeah, no, this is great. This is amazing. And we got it to a point where at the last show, people were leaving and saying, this is one of the best storylines I've ever seen, or the best storyline I've ever seen, or the coolest ending. So I suppose I should go into how I became the PWE men's champion. So, of course, me and Truman as Blue Pain have the match, and Truman creates a stipulation that if I lose, I have to unmask. He hits me with 3 spin side jobs, and effectively collapses onto me and manages to pin me. And as a result, I have to take my mask off for the very first time and reveal who I am. Earlier in the night, as MEMES, I'd come out and said, Blue Pain's ignore me again. He's in the main event. Whoever wins out of Blue Pain and Truman Roswell, I'm next for the title. which, very clever of my part there. But he pins me. He says, right, you got to unmask. The unmasking might be eerily similar to a certain other unmasking. I don't know. You might want to watch them side by side, frame to frame.
I think we know what you're referring to, yes.
And yeah, I take the mask off. Everyone's like, oh my God, it is Memes. I choke slam Truman. I stand there with about a pose. The next show is not Blue Pain versus Truman. That is Memes versus Truman. And what had been quite funny actually was at the show before, I'd done a stupid meme. I'd photoshopped my own head onto Maven's body and said I originally started wrestling as a young competitor called Maven. I won the show tough enough. I kept making up these fake origin stories. And the whole crowd are chanting, "You're not Maven" at me. And I was like, right, I know what I'm going to do here. So for the Pro Wrestling East show, I came out to Maven's theme, wearing Memes-themed Maven gear, which now will be entering a regular circulation. And I was just like, so I've got like a little Memes logo, but in like the classic Maven style. It's great. So I came out as Maven Memes. They chanted I was Maven this time, and I was like, yes, thank you. Me and Truman were going back and forth, like having a proper slugfest, I would say. Then Truman hits me with the spin side job again, but I got my foot on the rope. Ref counts to 3 anyway. I, of course, am livid because I put my foot on the rope. And you know what? The conspiracy theory hats with their tinfoil hats on are like pointing, going, "Oh, his foot's on the rope." I'm arguing with the ref. I do a little wave. My lawyer, or my legal representative, I should say, he's not a lawyer. He's my legal representative. Comes out, and you may know him, Mr. Chase Anthony, who is he fills a variety of roles, but I went over some legal stuff with him, and he kind of got the gist. He came out. He threatened to sue the entire promotion. He threatened to sue the fans, everything, unless the match got restarted. The match gets restarted. The ref and Truman are kind of dealing with him. I'm in the corner, just minding my own business. Can you believe it? Scotty Rourke comes out of nowhere and kicks Truman in the head. I had nothing to do with it. And then I give Truman my definitely not copied finisher, the cease and desist, which looks similarly to Matt Cardona's finisher, which I may have taken in tribute, to be honest. So I hit him with the cease and desist. I cover him. I win the match. 1, 2, 3, new champion. But it doesn't stop there. At that point, I get Chase Anthony to pull out a document. The document is a cease and desist on Pro Wrestling East, declaring that not only did I blame Truman for taking my face, I also blame Pro Wrestling East for letting it happen. The cease and desist means I'm their champion forever, but I never, ever have to defend the belt. So I leave the building to a chorus of boos and everything else, and with my new best friend Scotty Rourke and Chase Anthony, of course, as well. The long and short of it is the next show we've had a bit of a negotiation, and soon to be announced. We'll have Pro Wrestling East presents East and Desist, and there are some incredibly high stakes on the line. They haven't announced it yet, but this will be, regardless of whether I remain the champion or not, this will be their last show while they go on hiatus. And it might be a question of, will it be their last show forever? So we'll see what happens there, but that's all to come. And it's going to be very, very exciting.
Very interesting indeed. And we had a question before we went live from friend of the show, Richie. Richie asks, hello, Blue Pain. What was it like to wrestle Jerry Bakewell in a match that became a bit of a viral hit in 2023? Now, I've got some pictures because in all honesty, I think that this is possibly the match. And I don't know what show it was taped at, but it's a Spinebuster Media recording that's available on their YouTube channel. Done 299,000 views so far. So very nearly the 300,000 mark.
Not too bad.
Not too bad at all. Not too bad. But to yourself, Jerry Bakewell, a fantastic, well, a hilarious match, to be honest with you. I urge you to go and see it. But great fun between the two of you. There you are, finishing Jerry off after he tried to handcuff you to the ring post using some pink fluffy handcuffs. But Blue Pain didn't have any issues breaking them off at all. That match with Jerry Bakewell, I mean, that's kind of what put you kind of on my radar, my consciousness. And I've got some guys at work that are wrestling fans, and it kind of drew you to them as well. They said, Jonas, have you seen this Blue Pain guy? And it's like, well, yeah, I don't know who's underneath the mask, and I didn't until quite recently. But that was what kind of drew a lot of people to you and put yourself and Jerry on the map even more so.
Well, do you know what? This is the thing. Like, so that show was actually a charity show for a pizza place that burned down, and I'd seen it. I'm like, oh, there's some cool guys. The guy had messaged me like, hey, would you like to do Blue Cane on this? And I went, I also do memes. Can I do memes as well? You're thinking, oh, Blue Cane. And he's like, yeah, we could put memes in the Rumble. We could put Blue Cane in this match. We were going to put you against Jerry Bakewell. And I'm like, oh my God. Because Jerry Bakewell was one of those people that has been on my I Want to Wrestle list for, at that point, 6 years. Like, I love everything. Like, Jerry Bakewell, his audition for Britain's Got Talent
Britain's
as well.
Got Talent, of
for
course.
TNA British Wrestling Boot Camp is one of the funniest things you will ever see. It's him and his tag partner at the time, Stakely Bakewell, and they've got the whole like judges, which I think is Samoa Joe, Gail Kim, and Al Snow, and Spud, laughing their ass off, and they say no to them, but it's just a bit where in his thick Yorkshire accent, Jerry Bakewell just goes, "What does everybody want? You to stay quiet," and it gets me every single time. And like, I love his wrestling. I love his comedy. I love like he takes things. He's the best comedy wrestler in the country, I think, and one of the best wrestlers. He's a brilliant wrestler as well. Don't get that confused. But yeah, so I had this match with him, and I'm like, this is perfect. I'm very excited for this. And a little fun fact was, we had two finishes for that match. The original finish was supposed to be Jerry Bakewell handcuffs me to the ring. I get counted out. I stay handcuffed to the ring for the entire interval before a wrestler comes out, and I break the handcuffs and chokeslam them. I said to Jerry Bakewell, what happens if the handcuffs don't work? Because I looked at them and I was like, these look dodgy. And he was like, roll me in the ring, chokeslam me, pin me. And he handcuffs me up, and I look to my left, and they've already come off. And I'm like, cool, right, finish, let's go. And conveniently, based on what kind of a match it ended up being, I got the win. And yeah, that was the show that it took off because of the entrance.
Yeah.
Which again, I have to thank Spinebuster Media for that, because it was all filmed so fantastically. And I posted that video, said, fear me for I have snow powers, and 1 million views later, I'm trending worldwide for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it really is. So like I say, the entrance, I mean, I got a bit of a screen grab of the snow, but possibly from a different show. But I mean, instead of flames, like you would see from the Big Red machine, you get snow from the Big Blue machine, from Blue Pain, of course. Yeah, fun times. So like I say, that kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes towards yourself and Blue Pain and Joe Bakewell. And what a fantastic match, and obviously for a good cause as well. One of your highlights from this year, and you reprised the role of Blue Pain a couple of months ago when you wrestled over in France and for BZW, and I'm going to bring up some pictures here of your Buried Alive match against a certain Mr. Charles Crowley, somebody you know very, very well. Came up through the business together. You trained together 7 years ago. You were tag team partners, best friends, bitter enemies, massive rivals. And here you are all these years later, you under a different guise, Crowley having traveled the world. There's another one of your entrances. That's possibly after the end of the match, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But this was definitely towards the end of the match where you bury Charles Crowley. Not even his magic balloons was going to help him on that occasion. But your debut match for BZW, and what a fantastic occasion, considering the two of you and your history that you have, and then having a Buried Alive match, which I've only ever seen done in WWE
Yeah.
like 30 years ago, and obviously I'm referring to Mankind and Undertaker. But they tend to be kind of like Undertaker and Mankind type gimmicks back in the mid 1990s, and then you guys are reprising it on French soil with literally French soil, yourself and Crowley. But what was that experience like?
Well, do you know, again, that was another show where just a lot of things happened that made it perfect. Originally, I was actually, so this was also my, well, apart from being in the UK, of course, my European debut as well. And I've wanted to wrestle in France for years and years. My dad lives in France. My dad actually came up, and it was the first match he'd seen me live for since my debut. And he came up halfway across France to watch me wrestle in Lille. And it was in this casino, which I think that the attendance was about 950 people. It is without a doubt the loudest wrestling crowd I have ever performed in front of. And like, imagine the WWE pay-per-view that happened in France, and they were singing that song,
crazy
AJ Styles.
Yeah,
that happened on an independent level. I could not believe the volume. I've got a video of it. It's insane. And that crowd was like that the whole time. They were incredible. I got to, say hello, well, wave hello, because I was under a mask to a lot of people. And I got to do some really, really cool stuff. I got promoted as like, it's still very strange to me. This BZW poster has, all the French guys who are regulars at BZW, and then it's got the 3 imports on the front, but that's Penta, EC3, 2 of the biggest names in the world, and me as Blue Pain. And I'm like, why am I with these 2 guys? It was ridiculous. But so originally I was supposed to wrestle a BZW guy called MBM, and he is a fantastic wrestler. He's a comedy guy. He does some really funny stuff, and he picked up an injury a few days before. And also, just hilariously, I had no idea I was in a Buried Alive match until I saw the match graphic that said Buried Alive match. And I was like, sorry, what? So I found out via match graphic I was in a Buried Alive match in France. But yeah, I was having a chat with him. We were making plans, and then he got hurt, and BZW messaged me, and they're like, we're thinking about having you face Charles Crowley. And like, Crowley is literally the guy for me. Like, we started training a couple of weeks apart. We were a tag team. We've kind of risen up at the same time. We've feuded. We've worked together. We've done everything all over the world, literally all over the world. He was there in America because Progress had done a show the same day in the same venue. So he watched me wrestle in America, and you can hear him drunkenly going, "Go on, Mimo," while I'm being Blue Cane, which was quite funny. But to do that with him after, where we started was really, really cool. And we had a really good match. We had great fun. And yeah, I really could not have asked. Like, that is, it's either that or Cardona, which is my favorite match ever, just because of what it meant to me, what the show was like, and everything. And yeah, Crowley is someone, whenever I wrestle him, I'm like, I'm chill, because I know we're going to have the most memorable match on the card.
Yeah. And you mentioned your match with Crowley there in BZW and your match with Cardona in GCW all in the same calendar year. That's pretty cool, isn't it? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe it's worth the 400 on the PWI, not the 500. But yeah, that's what I mean. It's been a ridiculous year. Not even just as Blue Pain, also as memes. Like, you can see behind me, I've been chasing wait, hang on, that way. Got my opposites around. I've been chasing the Sacrifice Championship for literally since I debuted, for 5 years. Finally got my first one-on-one match for that, and beat Shogun J for the title there. At what I consider I have probably 3 home promotions, I would say. So I have UBW, I have Sacrifice, and I have United. They're like my 3 absolute like loves, basically. Yeah. So having now been the UBW champion, the Sacrifice champion, and the United champion is just the coolest thing to me, that all those promotions have kind of given me the ball and given me a chance. So I won the Sacrifice belt this year. which, as you can see in that photo, has a lovely custom side plate after I introduced, well, I binned the old sacrifice belt in the ring, actually, and then introduced the new ultimate sacrifice championship, because obviously I'm the ultimate of the ultimate sacrifice champions.
There you are.
So there I am on an old warship with my belt, Thor's hammer. I may have gone around to Comic-Con with the belt. But yeah, to be the Sacrifice champion is insanely cool. And then now to also be the Pro Wrestling East champion, having done all that in a year, where I've wrestled Joey Janela, where I've wrestled Matt Cardona, where I've wrestled Crowley in a Buried Alive match in France. Like it was like I said to Cardona, it's all downhill from here, because this is going to be incredibly difficult to top unless AEW suddenly come calling.
I think you're on a roll. And I think this year is just going to get bigger and better. And 2025 looks very, very promising as well. But I mean, you mentioned about your championships there. You mentioned about Pro Wrestling East being the men's champion and Sacrifice as well. And this year marks 5 years since you made your debut with Sacrifice Pro. And I know they started a couple of years before that. But certainly since after the pandemic, you've been a regular feature on Sacrifice Pro's shows. And of course, they are a charity-run group, obviously run by Hustle Malone. And they always put on fantastic shows. And like I say, I helped out there with backstage interviews for about a year or so in 2022. Know what fun it is, and everybody really rallies together. It's a real family vibe backstage, and the fans absolutely love it. It's always for a great cause. And like I say, if ever you want a fun wrestling show to go to, then make sure you make your way down to a Sacrifice Pro or a Wet Cake Pro show from the Eagles Bar in Bedford Town Football.
We had our Wet Cake show, of course, just last week, and I ended up getting arrested by the police for copyright infringement. So that was certainly a match. The match was won by Kurt Angle after I got arrested.
But I was there at the first Wet Cake Pro show as Mini Memes, if you remember that.
Yes, I remember well.
I
walking into the room,
I couldn't find a photo to bring up, but I was hoping to bring it. But it's not about me; it's about you, of course. But 5 years in Sacrifice Pro, and like I say, you've wrestled. Pretty much everyone coming through the doors there in Sacrifice Pro, and much like being the UBW champion and finally the Pro Wrestling East champion, to be the Sacrifice Pro champion, considering everything you've done there, must be a huge honor and a massive thrill for you.
Oh, it's incredibly special. And again, I'll peel back the curtain a bit here and not be my normal internet evil genius that I am at the shows, but the previously mentioned cat that decided to fall out the window had about £10,000 worth of surgery costs. And we were just thinking about, and this is after we've had insurance as well. So we had insurance, but we literally had the best insurance possible, and it covered her first night, effectively, of keeping her alive. And then you suddenly need another £10,000, and you're like, where do I find that? And the wrestling community came through big time, as I've mentioned. But I messaged Hustle Malone and his now fiance Asia, who co-run the promotion together, and I was like, look, this has happened. Do you think we could potentially do a show for part of the cat's costs? And he was like, don't worry, no problems at all. No need to ask. This is 100% happening. We're a family. You need help. We're going to help you. And the show we did, I told everyone on the roster exactly what's happening, and a lot of them had donated anyway. So many people that I can endlessly thank for that. But that show itself raised about £800 of the total.
Brilliant.
And I did not think it was going to be. It blew me away. So when I was told by Hustle, you're going to be the Sacrifice champion, I was obviously, we were post-surgery at this point. The cat's doing well. My finances have improved a little bit. And I said, look, this is good for my character. I want to say thank you for what you did for me, for what you've been doing for 5 years. Let me buy a new Sacrifice belt. And just, this is my way to say thank you. So, the next champion has this super cool thing. Because, the belt they had been going 5-6 years. It was looking a little bit, a little bit haggard, a little bit scratched up, and I was like, let's get this a really cool thing. I went to Craig Took, who has designed, who's a good friend, who's designed the TNA belts. He's designed some incredible titles, and I was like, look, can we do something here? And he did me a deal, and I bought Sacrifice a new belt, and then in character threw away the old belt and revealed the new one. And I think I could be wrong here, but I think it's possibly the only belt in British wrestling, which, hang on, I'll grab it. Where is it? There it is. So
let's have a closer look at
I
that
think
beauty.
it's the only belt in British wrestling that has a customizable, hang on, let's try and not get the light on it. There we go. A customizable side plate.
Nice.
So whoever is the champion can have their own side plate with their own logo on, like proper pro style. And that was kind of, oh, there goes something. And that was one of the things where I was like, oh, that'll make it just look so cool for whoever's the champion, that they can have their little logo on there. And it's such a beautiful belt. Yeah. So like so to answer your question in a very long format, Sacrifice is incredibly special to me. Like, I don't take away from it, of course, nobody does, but I always make sure that I book out the year for Sacrifice, because that is where I have the most fun. That's where matches mean a lot to me. That's where a lot of my great matches have been. I'm lucky enough to have wrestled a lot of the roster. There's a lot of new guys coming through now. Like my next match at Sacrifice is against a match I've wanted for a little while, which is against a guy who's very, very new. But again, I think completely gets it, and that's El Antonio. So it's something I asked for, and something we've got, and we're going to be doing some really cool stuff with that. We got cool stuff lined up. I could not recommend Sacrifice or Wet Cake Pro more. Like, yeah, UBW, Sacrifice United, they're always going to be my top 3 shout-outs because of what I've done there and what I get to do there and how the audience reacts to you.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about United, because they're a group that I have association with as well as their backstage interviewer, certainly when they perform from the Tap Social. It's a very handsome photo of you there as the undisputed United champion, but no longer, unfortunately. We won't harp on that. But these are looking back
hang on, if you go back to that picture, I do have my Zapdos right here. So hang on, there we go. So I've still got my Zapdos. Poking up here.
Of course.
My original, which has now been replaced by a custom Pokemon card.
But you're one of their featured players. You've been one of their featured performers on pretty much every show for the last 2 or 3 years now, Memes. And like I say, you were their United champion for about 8 months, if I'm not mistaken. A wonderful run, and 2 matches in particular while you were champion that I remember very fondly of your reign was a fatal 4-way, and I think it actually closed the first half. Yourself, Charles Crowley, Jackson Hart, and Truman Roswell in one of the best fatal 4-ways I've ever seen. Probably one of the best you've ever been involved with. But I know that the main event of the show was another fantastic match between Aluna and Nico Angelo, but to close out the first half, that fatal 4-way just blew my socks off, my friend.
Yeah, no, that is, again, it's one of my favorites. Like Truman and Crowley especially are 2 people that, again, I know I've trained with them so long, I know exactly what we're doing, and Jackson Hart is incredibly talented, and Truman, of course, being Truman, was like, I want to start the match with my hand glued to the ring. So we had a very unique start to the match, but the crowd, it's perfect for that United audience, and the crowd loved it. And yeah, we had such a great time doing that, and that was definitely one of my favorites. Throughout my whole run as the United champion.
Yeah, one of my favourite matches of the year as well last year. And another match that jumps out for a slightly different reason, but it was your championship defence against CJ Rawlins. And probably because he did that crazy, batshit crazy dive off the balcony. I was
going to say, winner by moving out the way.
That was a sensible move on your behalf. But what do you remember about that match? And I mean, that dive from CJ, I mean, that's obviously the highlight from that match. But you retained, obviously. But CJ Rawlins just obviously unpredictable in every stretch of the imagination.
Well, you know, I think we'll probably get into this in a minute, but that was actually my last victory at United Wrestling was against CJ Rawlins in my title defense. And it was one where I only found out who I was wrestling when I got there, because the day before, Gene Money was supposed to wrestle me at United. Gene Money, the day before, had wrestled Blue Pain, and Gene Money had hurt his back in that match. So Gene Money suddenly unavailable to compete against MEMES the very next day. Which, of course, it's one of those things where his back just went on something. But he was like, "Oh, I can't go," and I was like, "Oh no, we're wrestling tomorrow." So we never got that Gene Money versus MEMES rematch, which I've been waiting for a little while, as MEMES anyway. I've wrestled Gene Money in a singles one time as MEMES, but it ended up being a triple threat because Robbie Boy got involved. But I did win. So, but anyway. So Gene Money was unavailable, and CJ Rollins was kind of a last-minute replacement, and he was so easy to plan with. We had great fun. He decided to dive off the balcony, and I was able to pick up the win on a day I was trying to convince Simon Quest to join the meme team. That did not go as well as planned.
No, absolutely. And you alluded to it there, but that was your last victory in a United ring. You've been on a hot losing streak ever since, which has been kind of the theme of kind of your run with United ever since, and our backstage interviews ever since. But you're looking to redeem that, aren't you, Memes, when you bring for the first time Blue Pain to a United ring for Monster Bash 3, just a couple of Sundays around the corner against Ben Gedlin. And he's performed in a United ring as one half of his tag team, but he's coming in for a singles match against Blue Pain. Give us your rationale behind bringing Blue Pain to a United ring. You mentioned earlier that it's your kind of like your equivalent of Finn Balor's Demon or Bray Wyatt's The Fiend. Is that the reason why you're bringing it to a United ring, to hopefully get you a victory?
Well, so I've been on this. Well, I should start by saying I very strongly disagree with United's ranking system because I have won more matches than the majority of the people who have ever appeared at United Wrestling. But they run it so the amount of wins is counted against losses. So if you've won 7 but lost 6, you've only got a +1. And I'm like, come on, I've won much more than that. So according to United Wrestling, I am one of now, after a short losing streak which has run the entire year, I am one of the lowest ranked wrestlers on the United Wrestling roster, and it's meant that I tried to. I mean, there's a few. I had a rematch against Simon Quest and Alexis Falcon in a triple threat match. Didn't come out on top of that one. Of course, I lost the title to Simon Quest while injured, I should say, because in the same match, Gene Money got hurt. Blue Pain did his elbow in and got a giant burster that ended up with a short hospital trip in. So I wasn't actually medically cleared to compete. So Tommy Kyle competed on my behalf in a handicap match. But I came in at the end, the meme team turned on me, and Simon Quest speared me and pinned me. And I don't think Simon Quest knew he was going to win the title. So that was a nice surprise.
Everybody else did, but no, not
everybody else. If you watch that match back, just look at his face when he pins me, and you'll see what happens there. Yeah, so I lost to Quest. I lost in the rematch. I'm blanking on a couple of matches I haven't between, but I lost a couple more. And then it got to me versus Adonis Payne for the Future Proof belt. Reset, become the Future Proof champion, go for the title. I lost that match in 46 seconds, I think it was, which wasn't great. As you know, now Chris Aris having a fantastic year. And shout out to him because he really is doing every single thing that he should be doing to be a star. And I'm sure he is going to be a star for many years to come. I predict he'll be very high in the ranks of places like UBW, places like Sacrifice, places like United, and way beyond that. Oh, yeah. Eventually places like Progress, places like TNT, because he is that good. Like there's a reason I picked him and Artemis when I formed the meme team, because they were brand new at the time. We were post-pandemic. And originally we formed it in UBW, and I said to Paul Ash at the time, I was like, these two are the two that are going to get out here, and they're going to be really good, and I can help them just by getting them a few bookings and putting people putting them in the spotlight. Yeah. And for both of them, for Chris Arias and for Artemis, when we broke up the meme team for about the 6th time, I said to them both, I was like, you definitely don't need me anymore. You two are smashing it. And I think that's especially so for Chris Harris, because he just wants it so badly. But yeah, so I lost to him. Then I oh God, what happened after that? Then I wrestled Arthur Scurro, who hadn't won a single match in United, and he beat me with my own RKO, which, you know, again, not fantastic. On that same night, Chase Anthony, he's back again, who has been my enemy and compatriot, depending on where we are and what side of the coin we're on. I was standing by ringside at halftime, having a lovely chat with fans. That was him when he was very unhappy that I won the UBW title. But good photo, though. I was standing at ringside selling some merch. He'd started the second half. I was chatting to some fans because, you know, when I'm at merch, I'm suddenly much nicer when they have money for me. And he basically... I mean, you can watch this footage. Tell me I'm wrong. He went on the offensive for no reason whatsoever. He was like, "You're a loser. Why don't you go back to selling merch? Go upstairs. We're done with you. Get out." And yeah, well, I saw blue, I suppose, not red. I got in the ring. I screamed in his face. And I said, "You know what? Yeah, MEMES has been losing a lot. MEMES can't get a win. So the next show, it's not going to be MEMES competing. You're going to see Blue Pain." And, well, Blue Pain does not lose. So it's now me versus Ben Gedling, who, well, he is a very good talent. He's currently, well, he's one half of the Wet Cake Tag Team Champions, if you believe it. He's one half of the UBW Tag Team Champions. I feel like he's got another belt somewhere else, but I can't remember where. But he is also officially the lowest ranked wrestler on the United Wrestling roster. Again, strange system, but officially he is the lowest ranked. So Ben Gedling is going up against an unkillable snow machine, and I am not ranking his chances highly because, like I say, the only people that have pinned Blue Pain are Matt Cardona, Truman Roswell, Joey Janela. That's the full list of people who have pinned Blue Pain. So, Ben Gedling, we'll see you soon.
There we go. Let's flash up that graphic again. I'll be there. Sunday, October the 27th. Monster Bash 3 from United Wrestling, the Tap Social. Yeah, get your tickets today. Just visit their socials. I'm sure there's going to be links all over their socials where you can click and get your tickets today. But United shows, they never, ever disappoint. They're always fantastic, always a great atmosphere, always put on solid cards with the best performers, the best storylines. Get yourself down there. I want to finish by, we mentioned them briefly earlier, but haven't spoken about them enough, and that is UBW, because the other company you got your break with, you trained with, you really started to kind of find your feet as a wrestler. You had your first lot of success with UBW. You're still a mainstay there through their bigger shows, and more than anything, they're still producing some incredible talent. And I think I've shined a massive light on UBW in the five and a half years, nearly 6 years that I've been doing this show. Wow, on a very, very regular basis. And they continue to pump out this extraordinary new crop of talent every year or every couple of years. This year is no different. But you're still very much a mainstay there, still very much part of the team and a regular fixture on their cards. But UBW, I don't think they quite get the spotlight they deserve for what they've done for British wrestling when you look at the talent they've produced and what they continue to do on almost a monthly basis as a promotion in its own right.
Oh, absolutely. Like, literally, if you look at the list, right, so, well, there's me, so there's MEMES, Charles Crowley, Truman Roswell, Tommy Kyle, Chris Harris, Artemis, Tony Sin, Harrison Leon, El Jantonio. Like, literally, I could go on listing people for so long. And there's people who've come in and started training with UBW that are already fantastic. People like Liam McCarthy. Like, through the pandemic, the UBW Square One Academy had people like Walter showing up to train there. Like, we had training for people like Spike Trevay. We had Ginny coming along to coach classes. Like, it's been an incredible time for Square One and UBW. Square One as well is currently about to do a huge expansion. I believe they're moving to like I want to say it's 5,000 square meters or 10,000 square meters. It's a huge gym they're going to be building that as it's wrestling and strongman stuff and everything like that. And you know, and I mean, there's so many names. There's Arthur Scurro, Evie Madden, like, you know, people like Hustle Malone have existed before, but they've come through the doors too. Like, it is an absolute gold mine for talent, and I'm very lucky to have been there, and you know, got my start there. And you know, I'd probably say I haven't competed as much as I would have liked to this year at UBW. And that is partly down to the fact there are so many good talents now, and there's a bit of rotation going on, etc., and like people who deserve chances, people like the Square One champion Big Wade, who has so much potential, Axeman Bunting. I'm trying to think of so many people. Josh Spicer, I forgot about Josh Spicer, who recently turned heel at UBW, which is interesting. And most recently I got a chance to be part of UBW's now 11th anniversary show. Last year I got to headline as the champion their 10th anniversary show, which was an incredibly special thing for me. This time I competed in a battle royale and got dumped out, shall we say? But we carry on. I had a match with Truman this year at UBW at WrestleMania, again an event they've named after me. We had a tables, ladders, and cats match, which was exactly what you think it was. After Truman claimed to have thrown my cat out the window, he of course did not. He was insane. UBW. I've done so many special things there, like tagging with Charles Crowley. Charles Crowley turning on me, and like, well, it sounds weird, but children were crying everywhere, which was amazing because they were so invested in us. And they even brought one backstage for me to be like, oh yeah, I just got a bit of a sore head, but I'll be okay. I got to go in the ring at UBW, even if it's just in Rumbles and things, but like with people like Speedball Mike Bailey, you know, one of the best wrestlers in the world at the moment. I got to do some stuff with him in the Floor is Lava. UBW has such a big upside. It has so many talented people. It has so many people who now want to get into UBW. And that's kind of, it's been around for 11 years. I've kind of seen it grow since my class, which was, you know, Crowley, Truman, Tommy Kyle, Evie Madden, people like that came in, and we've watched it grow from where we do it. And now we see these new classes coming in and you know, working for spots. TIG, there's another one. God, there's so many people. It's Progressive Overload, forgot about them. But
the list goes on and on.
The list goes on and on
and
on.
Ricky Calvey, their current champion.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Ricky Calvey. Forgot the champion. Why not? Who literally last week beat Eric Young for the title. Beat Eric Young in a match that he thoroughly deserved for years and years and years of wrestling. And I know to get that match with Eric Young was incredible for him. Although he does still owe me a rematch, to be fair, because I was kind of screwed out of a title opportunity against him earlier this year. So, you know, Ricky, I'm just saying.
Let me ask you, you reeled off an impressive list of names. And like I say, they are, I think, one of the leading talent producers in the UK for the young talent that they've coached, guided, and given an opportunity to over many, many years. Stevie Turner, did she train with UBW or have a hand in being trained with UBW?
Yes, Stevie Turner, of course, originally Bobby Tyler.
Yeah.
One of my best friends in the world, because she now, of course, is over in Florida wrestling for NXT.
Course, yeah.
And yeah, she started at UBW when I started wrestling. And she was one of the first people that came up to me and was just really nice to me. She lived down the road. We became really good friends. And I know she still keeps an eye on UBW to this day. She is an incredible talent. She's so good. She could be main roster right now, and she would be in straight away. She's got such a good mind. She's got such good ability. I was very lucky that I did get one match with her. It was me and Vader Scott versus Bobby Tyler and Charles Crowley. It was quite a hard work crowd that night, we'll put it that way. But it was, again, it's another one that's just very special for me because, you know, I got to wrestle with one of my best friends and do a really cool thing. And she deserves all the success in the world because I know how hard she works. I know how much she wants it. And I know, you know, what a good person she is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought she had a connection with UBW. I wasn't entirely sure, but there we go. A couple of pictures of you during your UBW run. I've got to say that the championship bout for UBW is pretty awesome looking there. And you mentioned Chase Anthony earlier. There he is when you were the tag team champs. I'm not sure if you were, but definitely the UBW champion. But
Those are the two United belts.
Oh, are they? Let me just bring that up.
Yeah, again. Yeah. If you go back, 2 undisputed United belts and the UBW Championship.
Of course.
So I was carrying both of those belts consecutively.
There we go.
But
I thought you were holding them for the Odyssey for a second there, but clearly not.
No. You know, it's always exciting to have multiple belts until you have to carry them around everywhere. And the United belts, especially, they weigh a ton. So carrying them in the UBW, I'm like holding them like this while trying to bring my bag in, bring my merch in. I was semi-relieved not to have them anymore because I was like, oh, thank God, something I don't have to carry. But it was very, very special having those titles. You know, it was incredible. And like, it's genuinely a part of being the UBW champion and the United champion last year is genuinely, because PWI have told me this, part of why I made that 500 list. Because it wasn't just the Blue Pain stuff. It was the meme stuff as well that kind of got me over that line.
Yeah, absolutely, and very much deserved. And we'll be asking you for your socials very, very soon. But just a quick reminder, next Wednesday, 8 o'clock, live on Wrestling with Johners. We got another returning guest almost 2 years after she was last on the show, but now the Southwest Wrestling Warriors champion, Aluna. Aluna Blue back then 2 years ago. What a 2 years it's been. Absolutely taking the UK indie scene by storm. But you better catch her live. And we had a recap or catch up on what Aluna's been up to over the last couple of years. Wednesday the 16th, next Wednesday, 8 o'clock live right here on Wrestling with Johners. But Memes, before we let you go, I've got your socials scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Now I've got your Instagram and your X for both Memes and Blue Pain.
I've got so many of them now.
There is, especially when there's two characters to do social. I can't even keep up with my own socials, let alone two people's worth. But where can we reach out? Where's the best place to say hi, learn more about Memes or Blue Pain, and just get to kind of reach out, say hi, and learn more about your wonderful characters?
Well, do you know, I'll read them out as they come along the bottom of the screen so I can remember. Instagram, @BrotherMemo. Also, Blue_Pain69, which was an accidental joke. @Wrestling_Memes on Twitter. @_BluePain_ on Twitter. And also, you can go to bluepain.bigcartel.com for all your Blue Pain. Probably should have some memes merch on.
Are these still available?
Blue Pain memes.
That's the only T-shirt I could find on that Big Cartel.
Yeah, I need to. I've got a lot of merch now, and I need to update that store. But you can also find me at memesmerch.table, which is something I stole from Colt Cabana. But I have a very wide selection of merchandise now, which is available to all shows I'm a part of, and it's very nice when you see someone walking around in your T-shirt. So please buy them.
But Memes/Blue Pain, it's been incredible to have you back on the show. I can't believe it's been nearly 3 years since you were last on the show. Probably because I see you regularly at the shows I work at. But from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. It's been great catching up on everything Blue Pain related and everything Memes related from the last 2 years. But thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. And like I say, continued congratulations and success on everything you're doing and on the PWI 500. So congratulations and long may it continue, my friend.
Yeah, and Gain, I'm coming for you. All right? Gain, you're in trouble.
You heard it here first. But Memes, thank you very much. And thanks to everybody that's watched us live. And we'll see you again next week with Aluna. Take care, Memes. See you soon.
Cheers.